Hi everyone, welcome to your very first video in Learn&Teach channel. This video is about finding exposed databases that is found in Shodan, which are externally visible to anyone. So before we get started, I do want to mention that this is for educational purposes only. I am not responsible for any misuse, unauthorized, or malicious activity done by anyone using such information. Now, I'm going to start the video with a small lecture, so you are more than welcome to skip the lecture section and jump right into the hands-on examples. But if you want to stick around for the lectures, I will give you a brief summary of what Shodan is, just in case if you are unaware of it. It is technically a search engine for internet-connected devices. It is a search engine for security researchers and hackers to look for open or vulnerable digital assets. You can use Shodan to discover your internet-connected devices and see what it exposes externally, and not just your external-facing devices, but you can also use it to see what companies have exposed externally. As mentioned earlier, I know I keep saying search engine, but as I mentioned it earlier, it's pretty much like what Google is for most internet users, but instead of searching for websites, you are searching for internet-connected devices. So if you're looking at the screen right now, you can see that it tells you right off the bat that it is a search engine for the Internet of Everything, world's first engine for internet-connected devices, and it wants you to discover how internet intelligence can help you make better decisions. And then you can see, obviously, beyond the web, monitor network exposure, internet intelligence. We don't need to go too much in detail because in this video, we are going to specifically talk about open databases that are found in Shodan. So some of the few examples of open databases would be, to give you an example, something like MongoDB. It's a cross-platform document-oriented database program. And then something similar to that is ElasticDB, which is another NoSQL database like MongoDB, which is another document-oriented database. So if we are to look for those on Shodan, think about how we can go start about doing so, right? You can use it like a keyword search. You can type in MongoDB, or you can type in ElasticDB or Elasticsearch, whatever you want to call it. We can do that as well. But if you want to get pretty much nitty-gritty to the point, we can do it by searching on ports that they use, right? So how can we do that? We can do a quick Google search and just type in MongoDB default port. And let's go ahead and do this right now. And it comes up with 3. You see 2 right now, 27017 and 27018. One more would be 27019. All these 3 right here, which would be your default MongoDB port. So before we get started on all those, let me log into Shodan real quick, and then I can show you some of the queries. All right, so we are logged in now. This is usually what it looks like for me, for myself. You can have a dashboard set up if you want to. We're not going to go about dashboards here. We're strictly going to focus on open database. Now, another one that I want to show real quick as well, just like how we did MongoDB, it's the same thing we can do for Elasticsearch as well. As you can see, Elasticsearch default port. We'll go ahead and do a quick search, and that one falls under port 9200. So if you're unsure of what the database is, how to search for it, you can always check the default port, and you can base your search off of that just to get a starting point or a starting ground, right? Since we were talking about MongoDB, let's go ahead and let's take a look into that. So right now, we're going to use a simple query, which is going to be port. And in this section right here, or in this part, port is the port number that you're going to give, that you're searching for in Shodan. For us, it's MongoDB. We know that the common ones are 27017, 27018, and 27019. We're going to do the first one, which is 27017, and hit enter. Obviously, I don't even think I have to say hit enter, but I don't know, it just came up. So we can see that just off of the total results, just based off of the port, it's about 500,000 plus. Now, we want to be able to narrow this down. We can already see that there's MongoDB server information on the right-hand side. So these are the banners that Shodan is grabbing for us, and it gives us some sort of information. Now, there's other ones that Shodan is also picking up. Now, generally, although this is a default port for MongoDB, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're only going to see MongoDB-related results just because you put their default port in, because an owner could also use that particular port to have something else up and running. So we want to be able to narrow that down. We can do so if I'm scrolling down, by the way, we can do so by looking at the left-hand side. I know we see top organizations, the countries also as well, top countries, the top products, and top operating systems. Since we're looking for just MongoDB related one right now, we're going to go ahead and click on this MongoDB from the top products. And there it is. It's going to show products based on MongoDB related search. Now the total search went from 500,000 plus to 72,000 results. So going over all of these results will take a very, very long time. I mean, if I was to go through each one of this trying to validate, I'm pretty sure I will not see the end of it because new things will probably come up every time I'm clicking on something. So we want to break that down even more. And we want to do that by looking for a particular organization. Now you can do the same thing as well. You can take a look at on the left side, the left-hand side, and you can pick the organization that you're trying to do a research on. So especially if you're working for an organization, you know, you can take a look and see if your organization is part of it or not. Or if you're doing bug bounty, it's the same process where you can try to see if the organization is part of this search result or not. And it obviously, if you're doing bug bounty, that doesn't necessarily mean that that is going to be part of that particular organization, because they could be hosting it for their clients or their customers. So it's not going to be managed by the organization itself. So you want to be able to validate it as well. But that's going to be part of a different video. For this one, you know, let's pick any random one right now. We'll go ahead and by the way, before we get before I click on any one of the ones right here, you can also click on more under top organizations, and you can come into facet analysis. In this section, it will show you the organization that comes up under MongoDB Search, or the query that you have right here. And you can pick any one of them, or not any one of them, but you know, more towards your organization or the organization you're searching for, and you can click on that. So we'll go ahead and click any random one right now. It doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, we're going after them, but we can pick anyone. Let's go ahead and pick Microsoft Corporation right here for Microsoft. And we'll wait till it's done loading. Shodan is slow sometimes, but for a second we had an invalid query, and then I'm not even sure why Shodan said that, because I just clicked on search again and we came back to that particular query. Nothing changed. I did not change anything at all. So now we're going to go ahead. I guess Shodan had an iffy moment. So now we're having it just off of Microsoft, right? You can see it right here from the information that Shodan is providing us. It's Microsoft Corp, Microsoft, Microsoft, and Microsoft, right? So now we're down to 1,800 plus results. So we went from 500,000 to 72,000 to now down to 1,800. That's still a lot. You know, you can go through and try validating all of these, but it's still going to take you a while. And depending on how much time you have, you know, you might be in a rush, or you might just want to get, you want to be able to find things, or you want to be able to see the things that you can find the earliest. So if you can look at the banner on the right hand side, it says obviously MongoDB server information, and then you also have authentication partially enabled. What that means is that for that particular server, there's a good chance that authentication is enabled and you won't be able to access or try to, you know, technically, you know, it's gonna have some sort of authentication that's enabled in that MongoDB server. So we can also look for things like taking that authentication or not, or searching for things that does not have that message. So what we can do next is adding the minus sign and then just typing in authentication, and then we'll press enter. And we'll wait for the search to, So at this moment, we took out anything that had the word authentication inside the search. Now, that dropped down to 79 results. We are breaking this down little by little to narrow down our searches as much as possible. So at this point, what you can do is, I'm obviously not going to show the next steps, but that's something that you can do on your end, is that you can go ahead and validate if any are accessible with or without credentials or with default credentials. And you know, you can do so by installing a client, and then checking further to validate even more. Obviously, that's not part of this particular this video, and I'm hoping this gave you some sort of an idea on how to find open exposed databases. Now, we did talk about Elasticsearch or ElasticDB earlier. I will make that into a different video on how to search and what we were looking for, but I'm hoping this gives you a general idea of how the queries were built and what each one of those queries meant. So to recap, the port is used for port numbers for that particular application or database. The product is the product itself, which for our case was MongoDB. The organization is technically the company, the organization that you're looking for. The minus sign right here is to not have certain thing that came up in the results that's too much noise and you don't want to see it. So you can use the minus, and then you can use the value after the minus to take that out. So for our case, it was authentication, because we didn't want to come across any that has authentication enabled. So, and if you're trying to do ElasticDB or Elasticsearch, the same goes for that and other databases as well. So all you have to do is do some sort of, you'll have to do some tweaks here and there and changes, but it's pretty much similar to how we conducted the MongoDB search. Like looking for instances with default ports, and then narrowing it down by products, and then organizations, and then we're filtering off the keywords, or the keywords, and then we see what information is in the banner, and then we can use those keywords to narrow down our searches even more. So it's a lot of playing around here and there, but I'm hoping this gives you a general idea of how you can go and find externally facing databases. So now, before we end this video, I do want to mention that this was a topic that I already knew about. I know in my introduction channel video, I mentioned that it's going to be towards me learning new things as well as teaching them to have a better understanding. But, I wanted to put a video out that I actually knew, I knew the topic about, just to get the ball rolling. So that's one of the reasons why I use Shodan, because I've been working with Shodan for a while and I'm familiar with it as well. Now, I hope anyone watching this video has learned something new from this. Obviously, this is something going to be for me to come back as a refresher in case I forget Shodan myself down the road. But, until then, take care, and I will see you all later.